Hey everybody, what's happening? I'm Tommy and you are on the boat. Queen Keish, good to see you. Hey honey, what's happening? That would be Johnny Scoville there. Chase the Heat. Kristen Melinda, what's up? Auntie KK. Been missing for a couple of days, but I'm back now. Good afternoon, Tommy, chat, and mods. Good to have you here. Whoa, that's a terrible sound. What the hell is that? Sorry, people. I believe I may have left my ringer on. I'm terribly sorry. All right, there we go. That's better. Ann from Massachusetts, what's happening? So we're all kind of on the same page. Hey, Kristen and Melinda. Tommy Bird. That's funny. Roberta, thank you for being here and for the kind words. I appreciate that. We're all kind of on the same page. We are definitely the crew of people that's probably not rooting for Sean Combs. And I've been talking about all of the things that people are saying concerning his future. Ashley G, good to see you. This is one of those things where we're rooting for this guy to get his just desserts. Renee B, right on time. Sorry, I was late last night. My yoga studio had a Christmas party. We'll let it slide. Yoga's kind of cool. Christmas is even better. So you get a pass. So everybody is talking about the downfall of this cat. And the things that you're hearing are that Netflix is going to do another Diddy thing next year. There'll be 4 more episodes because this one did so well. Maybe there's enough footage out there to do that. There's a lot of things that people are talking about why this guy's going to end up in prison for the rest of his life and all of this stuff. And as I went over on the show the other day, there's just no truth to any of this stuff, right? There really isn't. So I kind of wanted to deliver something that might be real. So I started to look into what this guy's biggest threat is, because I'm telling you, this guy's in some very serious trouble. This isn't clickbait. You know, I don't see this guy as the Diddy he is surviving the next 5 years, and I'll tell you why. So when the Cassie Ventura lawsuit broke, this man was worth an estimated $800 million. He wasn't a billionaire at that time, but he was worth $800 million. One lawsuit filed by one woman, and this cat's now worth, they estimate, $400 million. He had properties in New York. He had properties in places all over the United States. He's down to the house that he owns in Florida, which admittedly is a very gnarly, large mansion, and one in California. But here's the deal. So those homes are massive. We're talking about like 16 air conditioning units on the roof of these things, right? And his family is living in these things. Kids. He has 7 children. These 7 kids all live off Diddy. It's not like any of these kids have a job. A bunch of them are still in college. And I started going through and adding up how much money this guy has coming in versus how much money this guy has going out. Sandy Wandy, good to see you. And I found out some things that were fascinating. Diddy has a Gulfstar jet. It's about a $65, $67 million jet. And oddly enough, this cat paid for it. AVAC, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. This dude paid for his jet. Now, there's an old adage about things that roll, float, fly, or I won't say it. That you're probably better off to lease it than to purchase it. Rich people tend to not pay off houses. He has properties that are paid off, and it sounds like, well, that'd be a lot better. You don't have to make monthly payments. You can write off depreciation, interest, things like that. At the end of the year, rich people tend, what a cool thing to do. I appreciate that. Auntie Keke says, just because I appreciate you. What a beautiful thing. I love that. Thank you so much. You made my day. And I mean that. This is one of those things where the amount of money coming in, so those houses, just for craps and giggles, the one in Florida has about $480,000 a year that you have to pay in property taxes. Right? You got a house that size in a place like that, it's going to kill you in bills. Hey, Susan, good to see you. Sue Nelson. Shouldn't say Susan. Sue, how are you? I'm glad you're here. So the one in California, $550,000 a year in property taxes. That's just $1 million, right? It's not a lot of money for a guy of his size, but the upkeep on these properties. So I started doing some research on what this guy's looking at. All of the money that he's spending on his kids, all of the money that he's got, this luxury fleet of cars. And you go, yeah, but he's not driving those, Tommy. No, but his kids are. And you got a Rolls Royce or several. You got a couple of Lamborghinis. All of these things have to be insured, right? All of this stuff has to be, you have to handle all of this stuff. Hold on one second, people. Sorry, this was spam. All of this stuff has to be paid for. You follow me? So every month he has to come up with all of this cash. Now people are saying he's living off of the money from his jet. He's making about $410,000 a month by renting this jet out to people, right? But just to have that jet, put it in a hangar, pay for the crew, do all that stuff, eats about half of that, right? Month after month after month. And on top of that, he's got absolutely ridiculous amounts of cash going out and none coming in. What it comes out to be is about $1.6 million a month that is going out, with an estimated $700,000 coming in. This is an issue, right? This is kind of ugly. And this is consistent. He makes $104,000 a month off of that massive music catalog that he has, right? 104 grand a month. That's all he's making off of all of the royalties from that music. He has not one brand endorsement left. Did you hear that? Not one. And when you start talking about a person's net worth, they're not saying Diddy's got $400 million in the bank. He has $100 million between those two properties. That's $100 million of that net worth. He's got a jet that they estimate the value of at $67 million. He paid $67 million. The reason they say you lease these things instead of buying them is if Diddy puts that on the market tomorrow, he'll get 17 to 20 million for that jet. So you say, well, you know, you still love it. So that puts him maybe about 200 million in assets or whatever. Well, on top of that, they estimate his music catalog to be worth a crap load of money. So liquid, meaning money you can go to the bank and get out if you have to. Like you're in trouble and you got to go get that cash right now. You might be able to come up with 100 to 110 million. There you go. That's a hell of a lot of money. No, it's not. And I'll tell you why. That lawsuit from Cassie Ventura cost him $30 million to settle. Probably the worst decision he ever made. If he had gone to court and fought this, he probably wouldn't have had to pay her a hell of a lot more than that. But he set precedent to everybody that comes along after him. Now, I've heard reports on how many lawsuits are out there that are actually filed, and most of them are BS, right? But there are 76 that I can absolutely document are out there. If we were to say, let's say he settles between $1 to $10 million per lawsuit, let's say that they throw out a quarter of them, you start to go through and do the math on what this is going to cost him. And you're looking at probably over the next 3 to 5 years, he's going to pay 70 to 100 million in legal fees. These things, he hires private investigators, he hires jury consultants, and he's got to do that again and again and again. And the first one's coming up in February. And Little Rod's lawsuit could get as much as Cassie's. There's a lot of people in here that got some really foul lawsuits that could end up with huge settlements. And there's a lot of people that aren't going to take small ones. But you start doing the math on this, and this is looking like bankruptcy. Now, people say when he gets out of jail, he's going to do a huge tour and it's going to save everything. Who's going to bankroll that tour? You think he's going to go into his own pocket to come up with the money for that tour? And the reason that I say that is, what if nobody buys tickets? It's not like you call the Superdome in New Orleans and go, hey, I'd like to book that thing for Saturday. You got to lay this entire tour out in advance. You got to put money down. We're talking about 100 to 200 million for a good sized tour. With everything, you're going to bet that people are going to come to that in large enough crowds to pay that off. I'd like to meet the guy that's got the balls to put that money up. And you could say, well, Diddy will do it. Oh boy. So what Diddy's going to start doing is having yard sales. He's got a lot of beautiful watches. The amazing thing is, because somebody, was commenting and they said, you realize what you could get just for his watches? Let me clue you in as somebody that's really into watches, right? You buy a Cartier watch that is worth $60,000 and cover it in diamonds, you can't sell it. I'm not kidding. The group of people that want a really classic, beautifully handmade Swiss watch, decked out in diamonds to the point where you can't understand what the watch is this big. I had a friend in the business that would buy iced out watches, remove the diamonds, and then smooth the gold out. And that was his hustle. You lose value by doing that to a watch. Massive amounts of value. Now, he's got a decent collection that isn't all paved out with diamonds. But most of what this guy has, you're looking at, so you spent $150,000 on a watch that you can now sell for 40. He's going to take a beating. And his kids, like his son, has been renting yachts several times since he got arrested. You know what those yachts cost? $325,000 a week. The panic in this man's life right now is that he's going to run out of money, and he's going to. He cannot survive these 77 lawsuits. If you go, well, most of those are going to be deemed bullshit, right, Tommy? Well, no. To get this far, a judge already looked at it and went, nah, right? We'll let it proceed. There was, the number of lawsuits were incredible. But Busby alone said there was going to be 120 just from his firm. Well, we're at 77. And there's a lot of other people that are taking shots at Diddy. Busby isn't the only attorney that is suing him. So these are going to proceed. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but guess what? It doesn't matter because the people that are suing Diddy don't have to come out of their pocket to sue him. This is contingency, right? They're going to get a cut if they win of a settlement or going all the way to the box. And if Diddy wants to grit his teeth and go all the way to the box, you can take the numbers that I just gave you and multiply them by 3 or 4. Now you're talking about cases that are going to drag out for 5 years. And what I hear when I talk to people about this, even people in the know, they go, yeah, but I've taken people to court, sued them, and I didn't get any money. That's because they don't have any assets. If you take a broke person to court and you win $40,000, the court can't do anything to get money from someone that doesn't have any money. But you take Diddy to court and you win a $30 million lawsuit or a $10 million lawsuit. And he says, I'm not paying. They go, and they put a lien on one of those properties, or they put a lien on his convertible Lamborghini, or they put a lien on any of these assets that he has. He's already started the yard sale. One of his homes is already for sale. And allegedly, he got so much bad press after he did that first one that he's trying very hard to sell the other one without anyone knowing he's doing it. He's in deep shit. He's got Ma Combs. He takes care of her. The number of people that are hangers on, there are staffs that you need to run a mansion that size. And you go, well, not if there's not anybody there, Tommy. Oh, you're wrong. Just the upkeep on the grounds of these things. Trimming bushes, mowing lawns. You don't do that. You start looking a little ghetto. You start looking like maybe this isn't a property people would ever want to take a look at. You got people that come in and clean it. Now, did he skeleton down? He did. But you're looking at each of these properties about 55 grand a month, a little bit more in California than Florida, just to take care of this shit. So you got a negative cash flow coming in every single month. And we haven't begun the legal nightmare that he's about to go down the path of. The first case is going to hear oral arguments in February, and it starts. Now we're going to have 77 of them. Most of them are going to commence before he's out of the joint. That's tough, man. That's tough, especially when no one on planet Earth wants to touch you with a 70-foot pole, right? And he was going to make all of this money off of Diageo. And if you guys remember this, Diageo is the brand, the liquor brand. It's a European company. They were the ones that handled all of the Ciroc vodka deals for Diddy, right? Ciroc is not Diddy's company. He certainly acted like it was, and a lot of people do that, right? But that's not his company. And he decided to play the race card and said, you're not marketing Ciroc the way you market other beverages. You're marketing this only in really poor areas, and you're not marketing it. I got news for you. That's not racist. That's business. You hire a firm and you say, how is this going to sell? And you go to test markets. And Beverly Hills ain't buying Ciroc. That doesn't make them racist. That makes them good business, which is why their annual income is more than most countries on this planet. Diageo is a monster, right? They own tons of stock in BlackRock. This is a monster company. And he pissed them off. And back in the day, they were saying the reason this happened is because he really got everybody at Ciroc mad. Thank you again, Ani KK. Appreciate you. He got everybody at Ciroc mad. That's why all this happened. They engineered all this. All of this happened because the man is allegedly a rapist and allegedly a child molester. This is why he's at where he's at. The lawsuits that are flying, one of them is from a 9-year-old. If that thing goes through, what do you think they're going to settle for that on? How much you got to pay somebody who did this to a 9-year-old? This guy's screwed 6 ways from Sunday. And if you think he's going to get out and do book tours, I was talking to somebody and they said, well, just write a book. And who's going to publish it? They go, well, somebody published the book for O.J. Simpson. Do you remember how that turned out? They came in and stopped that crap in a matter of, and every single penny that came from it went to the victims. Diddy isn't going to do what Diddy used to do. There aren't enough people that still support him to fill arenas. There aren't enough people to support him enough. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't sell a ton of books, But what publishing house wants to be the person that goes, I gave this lowlife a platform? I don't see Simon and Schuster doing that. I don't see Penguin. I don't see any of the big houses putting out a book. And you're going to do a press tour? You realize the amount of security you'd have to have? This guy's hated in a way that few people are. And if you don't believe that, 18 countries has his documentary #1 on Netflix. Right? 18 countries. They're not watching that because they're Diddy fans. This is an absolutely great question. So there are different types of bankruptcy. And, people go, he'll file Chapter 11. The only way you file Chapter 11, right, is to restructure so that everybody gets paid something. So you owe $500 million and you only have $400 million. You can file bankruptcy. They'll have yard sales. They'll do all of it. And the court will say, Tommy Scoville, he owes you $5 million. You're going to get $2. Nikki, he owes you $9 million. You're going to get $7. And the court will determine how much of your assets in the state that you had to liquidate in order to pay this crap off. Bankruptcy doesn't go, I don't have to pay anybody. It doesn't work that way. And there are already, I promise you, there are already firms that are doing, hello, Ruthanna, doing everything within their power to make sure this guy isn't moving stuff offshore, right? Hey, good to have you here from Canada. Glad that you're here. They're already making sure this guy isn't liquidating stuff and moving it to offshore accounts. Now, I would kiss your backside in the middle of Times Square if this guy didn't already have a bunch of accounts set up offshore. That would be logical for anybody rich. But rich people don't buy their houses for cash. They don't. There's way more benefit to not paying cash, even if you've got it in the bank. 2 reasons. Number 1 is you can write off the depreciation on the loan, right, which comes off of these huge tax debts that you have to pay. And then on top of that, you leave capital, the money that you have as capital reserves. So you can put that into something that gets you 10% a year. With all due respect, you got to be a moron to have $100 million tied up in property that you're not making payments on. It's just stupid. If he had all of that money out in the market in nothing even risky, if he had put it into something like Fidelity Investments, he could expect to get somewhere around 13 to 16% if you do that over a 5-year period of time. Instead, he's got it tied up in stuff that now he's going to have to try to sell. And there are people that want to have huge mansions. Do you want to live in a huge mansion where you believe somebody molested somebody in every single room? Because honestly, the person that bought O.J. Simpson's house on Gretna Green tore it down. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. They wanted the property, but they went in there to that big ass house he had and bulldozed it because they don't want the memories associated with any of that. And I think Diddy's going to run into this. Who wants to live in a house where the freak offs took place? People are going to come by and stare, right? Right now, TMZ has those houses on their tour bus so they can go by and show you where the freak offs happen, which, by the way, is very classy. Harvey Levin. Let's show the rape houses, you stud. What a lowlife. You talk about monetizing this crap. But the lies that people are putting out about Diddy every day, this is Diddy's biggest threat right here. This is it. Diddy's probably not going to get killed in prison, right? We can keep hearing that. I'd have to wear a hazmat suit 24/7, right? You'd have to wear a hazmat suit to live in that dump. I mean, let's be really honest. There's fluids that would probably require a hazmat team to clean up. How about all of the cameras? Because a lot of what we heard about Diddy was crap, but the cameras, they were in there. The recording devices, all that stuff's there. You want to live in that house? Who the hell wants to touch that? So when the time comes and they say, well, the property's worth $56 million. To who? He's got a $65 million jet that is part of his net worth that you couldn't get $65 million for if your life depended on it. Like, I spent a lot of time looking at what this jet sells for if it's used. You're not getting what you put into it. By the way, he doesn't have a payment on that jet either. The stuff that this guy did, because Diageo was funneling money into this dude, he was making over $100 million a year. So, yeah, buy a $56 million home, I'll just buy it. I don't know who is handling this dude's books, but I just don't understand. Because even if you bought a jet of that size, I looked this up, right? To buy a jet of that size, you need about 20% down. So that would have been about $12 million. They'd have run it at about 5%. You could have taken the money, got 10% in the market, right? Without even risk, and then paid the stuff. Now you're making money off money that you have tied in the jet. And he didn't rent this puppy until he got in trouble. So $410,000 a month. He's not bringing in enough every month to pay his bills. And the lawsuits, Sure, he's paying law firms now, but once you start going into the actual process of these 77 cases, he has a dream team. There might be 10 attorneys working on each case at $750 an hour and nothing coming in. And now he's going to sue Netflix? Ain't no way. And if he does it, it will be the worst decision of his life. It will propel Netflix into different areas where people, they don't even know that this exists. We're Diddy people, for lack of a better way to put it. We've been following this thing since before Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit, right? There are lots of people all over the world that haven't been following this. So the Netflix, even people I know went, oh, that video already dropped? That documentary's out there? Sue Netflix, and CNN's going to talk about it, right? Fox is going to talk about it. Every big news corporation on the planet, on both sides of the pond, South, all of them will be talking about $100 million or a $200 million or a $1 billion lawsuit. If he does that, you know, and I sit and I do the logical stuff and I go, there's no way he would do that. However, he does own a jet and 2 mega mansions that he paid cash for, which makes you wonder, right? How much deep thinking this guy is doing. But if you got here late, Diddy's net worth was $800 million when Cassie Ventura filed her lawsuit. Now it is $400 million, and I don't buy that for a hot second, right? These are inflated numbers. They always are, because they take assets that you go, that house is worth $56 million. If you can sell it, right? This house is worth $49 million. If you can sell it, that jet is worth $65 million. No, he paid $65 million. That jet sells for about $17 million for as old as it is and the time that it has on it. He'd be better off not to sell that thing and keep renting it out because it's the only income he's got coming in, plus his meager $100,000 that's coming in from his music catalog. Think of all of the crap that this dude had his hands in. Biggie Smalls, all of these catalogs. He's making $100,000 a month because he's not selling merch, right? Bad Boys is closed. It's boarded up. This man has nothing anymore. Sean John's gone. It's got nothing to do with that. Revolt got rid of him, said, well, you got to go, man. He owns nothing in Revolt. Everybody said, you got to go. Nobody wants to be associated with this guy, but you think someone's going to go, let's book a big tour for you. Boy, that's rolling the dice. Boy, is that rolling the dice. You know, Beyonce's tour didn't really go off the way she was hoping. That cowboy whatever tour, it just didn't go off the way she thought it was going to, because of, in my opinion, a lot of what happened with Diddy. And with her, all of her throwing up these signs and doing all of this crap that looks weird and Masonic or demonic, and her husband selling, you know, shirts that say, do what thou wilt on it. You know, that's to that will be the whole of the law, right? That's the Satanic Bible right there. Goes back to Aleister Crowley and all those weirdos. Do whatever you feel good doing. Doesn't matter. That's the whole law. Well, she didn't get that tour she wanted, and she's not accused of raping anybody. She's not accused of molesting kids. What this guy's been accused of, I don't see a bunch of people buying tickets, especially at the prices that you would have to buy a ticket to recoup that kind of a tour. $400 or $500 a whack. Diddy was in relations with 50's baby's mama. Yep. What is 50's goal for exposing Diddy? If I had to guess, it would be that Daphne was working as a sex worker, allegedly a sex worker for Sean Combs. He was paying her rent. There are texts that show what the negotiation was between the two of them for how much she was going to get a month. That would chap my ass if my girlfriend was sleeping with a guy that I didn't like much. And Diddy just figures that I don't like this guy. And he's going to keep poking that bear because he digs it. And people that weren't really up on this is making people believe the stuff that's been said about Sean Combs in the past. Make no mistake. There are people that didn't follow the Diddy case the way all of us have. Right? They didn't hear any of this stuff. And now it gets put together in a very articulate and a very kind of organized fashion. Even the people that watched the hundreds of hours that I did and all of this, they've been on everybody's channel. They watched all of this stuff. Everybody is saying, so what we have here is a real freak that these people didn't realize were a freak. Everyone that watched this said, I knew everything in that documentary, but it was put together in a way that really makes this work better. So, Susie Q's, here's what I was describing about what he did was stupid. If you tie up $100 million, right, and that money isn't working for you, granted, the real estate might become worth more money over time, but you could get it into a market that's paying you annually, and it would be paying more than the cost right, the interest on the loan would be. Diddy had, like, what do they say? A perfect credit score is like 850 or whatever. This guy had 5,000 for a credit score. He had $100 million a year coming in. He could have borrowed the money to get those properties and allowed his money to continue to grow, pay off the interest on that, right, and not damage himself. And then at the end of the year, you can write off the depreciation on the note and all of these things. It's what really rich people do. They very rarely use their own money to do anything because your capital reserves, if the shit hits the fan, you'd like to have $250 million in the bank. He doesn't. When they say he's worth $400 million, he ain't got $400 million in the bank. And he's got kids, 7 of them, that are hemorrhaging money. I mean, they are taking his cash and partying with it. Their lifestyles have been established because of their jackwagon father. It's not unreasonable to think I'm just going to go rent a boat for 3 or 4 weeks at $350,000 a week. That's terrifying if you're in prison making no money. And his stock is dropping. He's paying PR firms, right, to plant stories and to do all of these things. Another expense. He's got his mom he's got to take care of. He's got all of these kids who are still in college, right? He's got his 2 daughters that are now going to college. He's got a son that's going to some music technical school in New York. All of these things. Hello, Audra. Hello, Joanne Adams. All of this money just keeps coming out. And the amount of money coming in is a hell of a lot less than that. And he's going to have to settle 77 lawsuits. Maybe he takes some of them all the way to the box. Let's say we throw out 30%. Let's throw out half of them. Throw out half of them. Cassie knocked his net worth in half with 1 lawsuit. What do you think the next 5 years is going to do to Sean Combs? He has to fight these lawsuits, all of them. And I got news for you. There'll be more, right? If people start seeing this get paid, there are people right now who are going, man, what he did to me, I just don't want to go through all the crap in the press. I don't want to get crucified the way everybody else does. And they're just not ready to do it. Watch a couple of people get paid and watch those people go, yeah, maybe I'm willing to do that. This isn't the end of it for him, I promise you. Now, there are a ton of other lawsuits that have to do with him where he's not actually cited. There are people that decided that they were going to sue KK, Christina Karam. There are people who have decided that they're going to sue different big record labels or whatever, but they're not necessarily explicitly naming Diddy. But there are 76 of these puppies that are going after him specifically. He's got a suit that's coming up for his son. Do you think his son is going to pay for that, for the Omarkey woman who allegedly got sexually assaulted on his boat? Not his boat, but the one he was renting. You think the kid's going to cough out the $5 to $10 million it's going to take to fight that lawsuit? I got news for you. He's not, right? His kid ain't making money. His kid's spending money. And on top of that, right, there may be a settlement in that. Let's say she gets $5 million. Doesn't sound like $5 million is a lot of money to a guy with $400 million, but it ain't $400 million. They're putting a value on Bad Boy. Bad Boy ain't worth squat. I'm sorry, it's not. But if you're, let's say it's 10 times earnings, right? Let's say it's 20 times earnings. He's making $100,000 a month. That's $1.2 million a year. Put 20 times on that. That's not a lot of money, especially when this crap started. People thought that record label was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Now it might be worth what, 50? I doubt it. I don't think a lot of people are lining up to buy that. And he's going to be broke when he gets out. And when he gets out, he'll be a social pariah and no one will hire him. Yeah, and here's the thing. He's never worried about anybody hiring him. He always had the cash, right? Yeah, Susan Nelson. The Homestead Act protects you from certain things. Oddly enough, that's one of the houses he's selling, right? Oddly enough, that's one of the houses that Diddy is selling. And he's not going to be able to hold on to those properties because that's where the net worth is. Do you understand? Right? He has to get that money out of there to pay lawyers' fees, to pay private investigators, to pay jury consultants, to pay paralegals, and to pay lawyers $750 an hour. Holy hell. That's why when they go, he's got a net worth of $400 million. Yeah, if you have a freaking yard sale, if you start selling off all your stuff, and when you do, you ain't going to get $400 million. You're not. These are usually pretty inflated numbers. Why haven't his cases gone to trial? Queen Quiche, the reason that these cases have not gone to trial yet is because, number one, they had to wait for the legal case to be done. Because the civil cases can't go first because they're going to go in and take depositions. It's going to become public record. He has a right to not incriminate. All of that will be incriminating him, right? If those 77 cases started before his criminal case, the prosecutors could just sit and pick all of that out and use it as evidence. And they don't allow that to happen normally, unless you're a jackwagon, right? Like Wes Watson, who keeps putting off. Now his civil case is going before his criminal case, but he's the dumbest man in America. So that's kind of understandable. But all of these are just starting now. Now, you also have the issue of trying to pay the jurors. Well played. That's a hell of a comment. It's over now. One should be starting by next year. The first one starts in February. Oral arguments are going to start in February on the first of the cases. Now there's scheduling issues, right? So most of these aren't going to take anywhere near as long as the criminal case did. These are usually much shorter processes. But let's say they could bang out one every 3 weeks. You still got Diddy, right? You still have people that you have to get from one to the next. So all of that scheduling has to kind of be set up. But he's going to just be, what are we talking about, 5 to 10 million a month? I mean, to fight the criminal case, they allege that he spent $10 million. I will absolutely bet you that pinky right there that it's double that. I promise you. For reasons like this. There are people out there doing dirt for him, in my humble opinion, right, that are getting paid off the books. There are all kinds of people that are out there getting paid off the books. Oh, wow, I can't believe he's selling the Florida house because that's the one he needs to hold. He doesn't have the money to hold it. Think about this. Those two houses make up $100 million. Let's say they're still calling that net worth as having something to do with Bad Boy. Again, that was worth a couple $100 million at one point. If they're saying that record label, right, is worth 70 or $100 million, all right, that's 300 million of his 400 million. He needs it in cash. You can't go to your lawyer and go, I got a sweet house in Florida, right? I'll let you come and stay there. He has to pay all of these fees. And keep in mind, every single month, he's $500,000 in the hole or so now, meaning there's $1.4 million in bills coming in for those two properties, 400 and something thousand on one and 500 and something thousand on the other, just in property taxes, right? Break that up by 12 and it will stagger your mind. Most people in America don't live in a $500,000 house. That's just what he has to pay in taxes, right? These things aren't just tied up money. They're a money suck. Right? He has to come up. He has to pay all of the maintenance. He has to pay the groundskeepers. He's got to pay all of the people that take care of these properties. You can't own a home that size. Like I could take off from this house and come back in 5 months and nothing would be a problem. You own a home that big, take off for a year and see what happens to it. There are people coming in and working on that thing around the clock. I filmed about 3 years ago from a house in Florida that is worth what either of those homes that Diddy has. It's my uncle's place. It is ridiculous. He owns a hospital. It's one of the gnarliest homes on earth. There are 5 people that work at that place there every day. Every day there are 5 people there just walking around working. Diddy's places, he went for as grand as you can have. He's got pools. He's got all these things. Pool people that are coming in and cleaning and doing the chemicals. You got people that are trimming the bushes because they're all perfect. Those hedgerows that go all the way down, they don't leave. At the end of the week, when you're done doing what you do, you got to come back the next week and start on the next stuff. He's hemorrhaging money. And the only income I can verify for this fool is $104,000 coming in a month from his music. The overrides he's getting on music, right? Royalties, 104 grand, right? Then on the other side of that, he's got 410,000 coming in a month on that jet. He's gonna have to sell this stuff, right? Maybe he can keep the jet and keep leasing it out, but it's difficult to have something like that goes out every you're releasing it constantly. So if you get a down period, you're still paying for the hangar, you're still paying for the maintenance. You take a Gulfstar up and you fly it around and you do it for 50 hours, 100 hours. Guess what? You're going to have to tune that bad boy up, and you're not taking it to Chevron. There are guys that got to come in and work on this that are going to absolutely bleed you dry. Just to own that thing is going to cost you more than $1 million a year, right? Then you're paying the pilots. You're doing all of this stuff. So he might be generating 410, but there's so many fees associated with a jet. That's why rich people don't buy them, right? They lease them whenever they need it. Chicka Cherry Cola, good to see you. What's up, John? The ultra wealthy, if it rolls, floats, flies, or has intercourse with you, they always say you ought to probably lease it instead of buy it. Because if you don't, you're going to get beat, right? Buy a Lamborghini for $300,000. Drive it from the dealership to your house, and it's worth half of that. You take incredible hits on huge ticket items like that, right? And you have to pay insurance on it. And you go, well, if he's not driving it, you think that he's not going to think his kids might take out the Lambo, or his kids might take out any of these things. Not me, I bought my jet. Yes, it's a helicopter. Don't exaggerate. It's my girl. Always exaggerating. And again, who wants to buy those homes? But he's going to have to sell them. That's why there's only 2 left. Go back and watch the stuff I did on Diddy where I used to talk about how much property he owned. He's having a yard sale because his net worth is tied up in jets, cars, real estate, watches, right? Huge chains. Hey, Cricket, it's not liquid. Liquid assets, you can go to the bank and say, I need to take out $50 million, right? I'm going to wire this to this, this to that. No, you can borrow money against the homes, right? Then that starts getting dicey because let's say you borrow 20 million. If you can't make the payments, they're going to take it, right? You could lose a house worth 56 million on a $20 million loan. It happens every day in America, right? So you start taking out mortgages and second mortgages. He has to have a yard sale, and the yard sale has already started. But people, I watched other channels. I was researching this, and they're like, he's living off of the money he's making on the jet. He's getting rich. He's making $410,000 a month on that. And there is no chance in hell that he can't live on that if it was triple that. And unfortunately, you can't put something in the sky that much. My dad has been telling me about the 3F rule since I was a kid. At one time, he had all 3. He says he'll never own the 3Fs again, right? Better off to rent it. You don't want jets. You don't want boats. You don't want cars. Any of these huge ticket items. I mean, Diddy was smart enough not to own a yacht. And when I started researching for this show, I found 3 yachts that allegedly he owns. The names of them and all that. He doesn't own them. I think he likes to act like he does. But these are all things that he leased for between $350 or $345 to $500,000 a week. And you go, how is that possible? Because they're not renting it out every week. And the payments on these things, it's a dangerous thing. Tonight's menu, burrata ravioli and vodka sauce with prosciutto. You know what? I almost want to make you leave. That sounds so good. I'm a little offended. Heather Rhodes, good to see you. This is the problem in Diddy's life. This is the biggest threat in Diddy's life. Let me reiterate. What did one lawsuit and one really big case cost him? Well, allegedly, when Cassie filed, he was worth $800 million. Now he's worth allegedly $4 million. And he's been selling stuff, man. His properties, he's got 2 properties left, right? I do have access to the best Italian food ever. It's true. I'm probably going to roast Brussels sprouts with bacon. You had me at bacon. Yeah, look at those. See, everybody gets it. But this is what's going to destroy this cat. Isn't going to be anything else. You got 76 lawsuits. One of them cut your net worth in half. Now, granted, this was a big one, but critical thinking. Out of these 76, let's just say one of these 76 goes to criminal charges. One lawsuit settled for $30 million, and one criminal case somehow cut his net worth in half. What if 3 of them go to criminal cases? Right? What's the filthy guy that urinated all over chicks? I can't think of his name. You know who I'm talking about, though. The singer R. Kelly. R. Kelly broke. R. Kelly, I mean, he ain't got nothing. Completely broke from fighting lawsuits and such. And he didn't have 76 of them. Right? There are 76 lawsuits pending. And what did he do when the first one broke? He ran the hell out there as fast as he could and he settled it. I got news for you. Guaranteed. He's already settled a bunch that we don't know about. For real. Out of that 120, people that he could give $2 million or $3 million to make him go away, it would be more expensive to fight it. That's terrifying. Because if you have to pay all of these people because it's going to be cheaper than fighting, how much you pay them is going to go up with each individual you settle with. setting the bar for Cassie Ventura within 40 hours or whatever, 36 hours, allegedly 30 million. We don't know if that's true or not, right? Different numbers have come out. Call it 20. AI says it's 30. I don't know. I've heard different things in different places. I've read different articles. Split it down the middle and call it 25 million. What if you had to pay 10 of those at 25 million? That still leaves 66 lawsuits to settle, and you just dropped $250 million, right? Or no, is that 25? Anyway, you shake it. You're looking at $5 to $10 million for each lawsuit that you're going to take all the way to the box. In other words, if you don't settle, right? Out of 50, I'd guess at least 5 will go criminal. I don't think that that's absolutely out of the range of possibility. Just Jones says R. Kelly needs to be broke, and then he needs someone to break him so he never does what he does again. I don't think he's going to have much of a shot at doing what he did ever again. And he's been broken. I don't know if you've read much about him, but he's had some tough time. He had a cellmate beat the bark off him. He's not doing easy time in there. Out of 50, I guess 5 will go criminal. That's only 10%. 50 Cent said he should have claimed bankruptcy already as soon as the Cassie lawsuit. Well, he shouldn't have paid her $30 million this fast because it made everybody else go, oh, baby. Oh, baby. This guy settles, right? This dude settles. Now, as I've said, so many of the lawsuits that came out were just absolute bull scat, right? Just straight BS. However, these are proceeding, which means judges already looked at them and went, wow, there's enough meat on the bone there to at least let a jury decide. Now, will juries decide all of these? If they do, he's already broke. He needs to sell all of his properties. He needs to sell the jet, because you start multiplying $5 to $10 million times 76. That doesn't touch settlements. That's or punitive damages. And again, what if they don't pay him? They're going to put a lien on those properties, right? They're going to put a lien on them. He's got to dump these properties just to be able to not run out of cash to pay lawyers. This is what happens when you're bulletproof for 3 decades. The number of times this guy got into trouble, pistols, and I'm not talking about just the one with Natanya Rubin at the nightclub, where at the Shine Barrow incident where the shooting happened, Shine Barrow goes to prison for something Diddy did, right? That kind of crap. And Shine Barrow came out and said, I didn't do it. I took the prison rip for him. Then he got a 4-album deal, right? Got a 4-album deal and didn't actually make an album. That's how you pay somebody off for going to prison with you without looking like you're paying somebody off to go to prison for you. But anyway you shake it, 76 lawsuits are going to drain this dude's bank account in a way that you can't imagine. And now, without having to pay through all of those, you're putting out more than $500,000 a month than you're bringing in. It's kind of like America, right? You just can't keep doing that forever without the ship hitting the sand, so to speak. So when all of these people are really trying to gin this up, right? When all these people are starting to talk about all of the feds are going to have to. This is a pretty decent question. Will the feds look further into Diddy after the 50 Cent documentary? There's not, as I've said on here a lot, I was so knee deep in Diddy for so long, it was actually unhealthy. Like everything that came out, I read it, I looked at it, I studied it. There wasn't a lot in that documentary that was new. But if you look at it critical thinking style, the stuff that Diddy said, the big controversy is that there's a clip of film there that should have been Diddy's, except Diddy didn't pay the people that were filming. And it sounds like he wants to buy a jury. It sounds like he wants to threaten witnesses, right? We're losing. Get some hard hitting. Like he's talking about people that are getting ready to get down and dirty. Now you could argue that he just wants somebody that's a fighter. It's a gangster hood talk. It's gangster rap talk, whatever. But when you tie that in to the 2 jurors who are in that documentary who look like, maybe they got paid, right? I'm not saying they did, but they sure as hell weren't going in there with that even-handed, I'm going to listen to both sides and we'll decide exactly what's happening. They walked in going, yeah, Diddy didn't do this. That's not what a jury is supposed to be. I would imagine that Rune Subramanian is pissed off, right? The judge for this case has got to be pissed off. I've said it 100 times. It didn't make sense to me. And my initial thought was they couldn't understand RICO. RICO is complex even for people who are lawyers. Good afternoon, Lovejoy. It's difficult to understand a RICO prosecution, but when people go, RICO is for, you can't charge one person with RICO. Of course you can. Of course you can. It's not what it was designed for. Several artists have said he put everything in his mother's name. Question, is his mother generating monthly income? Good God, no. What she's doing is losing ungodly amounts of his money. That woman goes out to eat. That woman wears jewelry. That woman, Diddy pays for everybody. Janice Combs doesn't have a job. And artists have said he put things in his mother's name. He didn't put assets like we think of. So when they say he has $400 million, there's probably like recording rights. That's what the artists were saying. You put the recording rights into your mother's name. That way they can't go after Diddy or whatever. Does he have assets that are hidden and protected? Yeah. But if you run out of cash, right, and you've been sued and you had this much money, they will put a forensic team on there to find out where your money is, and they'll find it. I mean, if you look at what happened with Bernie Madoff, right? Madoff hid so much money, they found it. They're good at this. This is what they do. And you're not going to take $25 million over to somebody's house in a hockey bag, right? $1 million in $100 bills weighs like 22 pounds, right? So when we think about, you see it in movies and a guy brings a briefcase in and there's $5 million in it, there's no freaking chance, right? Money weighs a ton and it's a pain in the ass to move around. So they're moving this stuff on computers, and it is a very difficult thing to not leave some kind of a trail. Is it legal to transfer everything into mommy's name when you are known serving criminal? No, here's the thing. You can move certain assets. I had a car that I put into my lawyer's name because I didn't want him taking it, right? There were things that you can do in small little doses, but that ain't going to help Diddy, right? To put the house in his mother's name at this point, they're going to come in and go, I believe that the way the law is written is you cannot move assets to someone else's name for the purpose of avoiding anything legal. And when people go, this is civil, where do you think civil cases are tried, right? Who do you think they're tried by? Civil cases are absolutely legal. They're just not criminal. They're still going in front of a judge. And if a judge says, you're paying this person, and you go, yeah, I'm not paying him, the judge has things that he can do to make sure you do. Like he'll put a lien on that property. So you don't want to pay the $10 million? All right, well, we're just going to take and put a lien on that property. If you ever try to sell it, you try to transfer it, you try to do anything, you're going to have to pay that off before you can get your money. And $100 million in property, well, that'll pay off what? Depends on how much these people settle for. I think he totally screwed up not sequestering the jury. They don't do that as often as they used to. I tend to believe that as well. But there's some stuff coming out now that there may have been hanky-panky going on before that ever started. And I'm not going to run with this. I'm not going to put thumbnails up about this. But allegedly, they had people that were inside the grand jury that were leaking to him. There's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Absolutely. Tax avoidance isn't illegal. They write tax code that goes from here to Texas so that you can avoid taxes. You can write off depreciation on things. You can write off payments on a vehicle if it weighs more than, I can't remember, 2,000 pounds or something. There are things you can do, but you hear YouTubers go on and go, I'm writing off every penny of my cars. No, you're not, right? No, you're not. And maybe you shouldn't say that out loud, because the IRS tends to start taking issues with people that go, yeah, I'm burning them. And there are YouTubers. Wes Watson's famous for it. He goes, I don't pay any taxes. Genius, right? Smart, especially for a guy going to court. But Diddy's going to live in court, live in it. There are 76 more Cassie Venturas out there. Now, admittedly, Cassie was with him for 10 years, and the abuse was unbelievable. And it's not going to be the same thing. But there are some pretty sick cases in here. There are children. These are just ugly. And in a lot of cases, if he didn't have 76 of them, his lawyers would go, pay off the kid. Get that thing the hell out of court. Don't let it get into the newspapers, because Diddy's reputation is just a little bit worse than mine. And if they start really going after him for things like that, yeah, get out and try to do a concert after you've been caught for 3 underage boys and girls, right, that you have to settle with because you molested them. Yeah, you're going to pack auditoriums. You're going to pack stadiums. The world will forgive you for a lot of shit. They will not forgive you for that. And those civil cases should allow cameras in the courtroom. You know, it isn't so much the civil cases versus criminal cases. It's where they're at, right? Now, anything federal, feds don't allow cameras. It's across the board. They just don't do it. But I think, in answer to your question, I don't think that I don't think he can hide the assets that he has, especially since they're not liquid. If the dude was making payments on both houses, if he was making payments on the jet, then the cash that's liquid, there's a lot of ways to hide liquid cash. You can have somebody come in and say, I am a firm that gives advice on jury selection, things like that. Your friend could start that company, right? Go file all the paperwork for it. You can pay him way more than they're supposed to. Here's $10 million. I want you to help me pick a jury, right? These are the hustles that people do. They get friends to start businesses and charge them for things that they can pay them for. And it's just a way to kind of avoid it. And if that person pays taxes on it, they're not going to pop up on any radar, and you're moving your funds around. Diddy's cash is tied up. It's tied up in really expensive properties and cars that he owns outright that he ain't going to be able to sell for a third of what he paid for them. The depreciation on those cars is dropping like a stone as we're sitting here talking, right? These aren't Hondas. These are Lambos. If you're ever in an airport, because you probably won't run into this in too many other places, but if you're ever in an airport, look at something called the DuPont registry or the Rob report. It's like an auto trader for really rich people. The cars that you see in there are cars that people pay $1 million for. And they're Ferraris and Lamborghinis and things like that. And if you go down and look, it'll say 3,000 miles on the car. And they want 180,000 for it. They paid 500 grand for that car. The next one will have 4,000 miles. Porsches will have 90,000. People drive those. People don't drive Lamborghinis and Ferraris. They drive them just enough to be seen in them. Those aren't daily driver cars. Because you put 3,000 miles on it, you're going to have to get a tune-up. And that tune-up might cost you 10 grand. They're terrible investments. I know this. I promise you. They're terrible investments. Exotic cars are the worst. He's got a dozen of them. A dozen of them. Cameras should be allowed. I agree with you. For the public to be able to see Diddy's houses up for sale will be so humiliating for Diddy. One of them already is. And he's only got 2 properties left. He's liquidated the others. Diddy is living right now by selling shit that he owns. Make no mistake. There's nothing coming in. 400 grand from renting a jet that you are so upside down in. You paid 67 million for the jet. It's worth 17. Good investment. Beautiful investment. Just plain stupid, right? Now you've got these 2 unbelievably massive houses that between the 2 of them cost you $1 million a year just in property taxes and close to $1 million a year in upkeep, right? This guy's an idiot. And bad crap happened in both of these houses. Honestly, put a 2 in the chat if you would want to buy a house that you knew allegedly people just got molested in and raped and all of the stuff that he has been accused of doing. You want to live in that house? You want people showing up like the Tate LaBianca murder scene and showing up just to see where Manson did what? That's not a place anyone wants to live. You buy a house that big, it's because you don't want people looking at you. You don't want your neighbors close enough to see it. Now you got the TMZ bus coming by to take a look at where Diddy had his freak offs. By the way, classy, Levin, classy, right? Hey, look, that's where all the victims got victimized. God help us. When are we going to stop monetizing rape and victimization? Not many things are worse assets than exotic cars, highly depreciative assets. The worst. And you know the crazy thing? He could rent that Lambo for about 3 grand a month, 36 grand a year and be done with it. Instead, you just pissed away your money because he never thought it was going to stop, right? And the deal he had with Diageo, he could have just let that money keep coming in. But he thought, if I play the race card on this, I'm going to get a lawsuit that'll get me $1 billion. It didn't, right? It didn't. Diddy got paid. They settled. But I bet he'd like that 100 million coming in right now. No brand. He does not have a brand endorsement. Do you hear that? Nothing. He makes $104,000 a month that comes in from his music catalog. 104 grand a month. Not a lot of money for a catalog that big, right? What are you talking about? Just 1.2 something million? He's making 400 grand a month renting his jet. That's more money than he makes off his music catalog. This man's going down like the Titanic. This guy was the biggest thing in hip hop. 104 grand a month? Man, that's tough. That's tough. And someone's going to end up swooping that up for pennies on the dollar, because that's what happens when you're dying. 50 Cent's right. He should have started declaring bankruptcy from Jump Street. Trent Reznor rented the murder house. Yeah. I mean, look, there are people that don't care, but renting a house and buying a $65 million mansion that is famous for people getting molested in it, that belonged to P. Diddy. God, how do you talk to people at the country club? Oh, you bought Diddy's house? Right? It's like, hey, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, where they were murdered. They bulldozed the house. Rich person bought that and bulldozed it and then put up another one. They don't want the murder house. Now nobody goes by to see where on the porch did they get stabbed, because people are weirdos, right? And then they're voyeurs, and TMZ does the drive-by. I don't think, yeah, bad mojo, says Laura Lou. It's a beautiful way to put it. It's just bad mojo. And there, who wants that? When you don't have to deal with it. When you can go down the street and buy a property about the same size that's got absolutely no fame attached to it. You know how you sell that? You drop the freaking price. And you're not saying, no, I'll take $2 million less. Man, when you're selling something like that, you're going to have to take a hit. You're just going to have to take a hit. And, markets fluctuate. Sure, real estate tends to go up, but markets fluctuate. And there are markets that, these aren't great economic times, right? These aren't the best of economic times. Try selling something worth $50 million in bad economic times. Even the rich kind of tend to neck it in a little bit. And if you're going to go spend that money, maybe you don't want to spend it on Diddy's place. Took a long time to sell Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. Yes, it did. Yeah, it did. And this is fairly common. And, Jackson had a bad reputation, but he didn't have Diddy's reputation. I mean, right now, honest to God, who has a worse reputation than Diddy? For real. Meghan Markle. There aren't a lot of people that garner the kind of hate that Diddy does. Me and my girlfriend, my brother. But most people on planet Earth don't get that kind of hate. And it's not going to get better. All of this hate was generated from Cassie Ventura's lawsuit and the rumors that came from it. What I'm telling you right now, this is exactly what's happening in his life. But go out and look at the other people that are doing this. And you can find a thumbnail every single day of the week that says, Diddy, it just got way worse. And they don't have to back up anything they say. They don't. That's just one of the beautiful things about the public square. You can go say anything you want. And before the next 76 of these things are settled, wait till you hear the damage that's going to get done to this guy's reputation. Right? It's going to get a hell of a lot worse. Busby used to come out and give us a tease, right? One case had to do with this. We hear 30 seconds of it. And then you might, in some cases, you could pull it. And I actually read some of those. A lot of those are gone. A lot of those are actually got thrown out. But we have no idea what's going to come out in testimony in 76 of these. And let's say people will get really cold feet at the last minute. They were hoping he was going to settle, right? And they decide to bail on it, okay? Knock 12 of them off of that. We're still talking about numbers that are astronomical and are going to bury this cat, right? They're going to bury him in a financial strait and he's going to get out and do what? With all due respect, did he put out some music? The guy's not a singer, right? In the sense of the word, like a Whitney Houston. This is a guy that put stuff together. And a lot of the stuff that he got credit for, Biggie wrote. And then after he was dead, Diddy would go in and put, yeah, hell yeah, and lay his voice over in a track so that he could put his name on there with him. There's nobody left to rip off. Diddy didn't get rich being an artist. Diddy got rich ripping off artists, one after the other. Terrible deals. Biggie was getting 20%. Diddy was getting 80%. God help us. There's nobody left to rip off. And when he gets out of prison, do you know what part of his, I did a show on this, but part of his terms of release are he can't manage anyone. Wow. Can't be in a position where you manage anybody. Diddy can't go back to doing what he did. Not that anyone on planet Earth would want to deal with him, but he can't. So what are you going to do, right? He's really corny as an entertainer. I got to agree. Nice. Diddy couldn't carry a tune if he was surgically implanted. Nikki Thomas says, Little Rod's case is a waste of time. He was in relations with Diddy. Yeah, but that's not a get out of jail free card. Cassie Ventura was in relations with Diddy, right? And she whacked his net worth in half. That doesn't exclude, especially because here's what they will say, and they're right. If the person that you're in relations with has an unbelievable amount of power over you, like the ability to make you famous, and he allegedly was telling Little Rod, I'll buy you a house, right? I'm going to get you these awards. I'm going to do this. That's not consent. That's Harvey Weinstein. I'll give you a part in this movie if you give me a mouth hug. That ain't consent. And people go, well, the girls decided to do it. They decided to do it because if they said no, they weren't going to work in Hollywood. That isn't consent. And this is kind of what that industry does. And I don't mean Hollywood music. I mean all of it. If you're in a position of power where you say, I can make your career or I can destroy your career, shut that door. That's not consent. And I think that what we're going to see in Little Rod's case, Little Rod wasn't stupid, right? This guy's got hundreds of hours of stuff recorded. And I used to think that was BS until we saw some of it, right? He definitely has recordings from the shooting that took place at that recording studio where Diddy and his son and some dude named G, right, apparently got into an argument. Diddy's son allegedly shot the dude inside the studio. That case is still open. You know that? That case is still open. You think Diddy's enough of a stand-up cat to say, I'm going to put that one on me. I'm not going to let my son take that. I'm not so sure. Especially after he's done a little bit of time, right? I don't think he's really digging the whole prison thing. And it hasn't even gotten ugly. Oh my God, Nikki, you nailed that. You nailed that. He does. I am not at all very pleased with the dude's legal team. And a bunch of stuff already got thrown out, right? But it was RICO. What got thrown out of that lawsuit was RICO. The stuff that's still in there is enough to really do damage. And not just financially, but to his reputation. And we could do this, right? We could go, let's say it's BS. He's still going to drop $10 million fighting it. And that's the problem. 76 people that you're going to have to pay to fight, and you may end up losing. Then you have to pay them, right? So you decide in the beginning, well, maybe, especially if you're Diddy, you're sitting in a cell and they're talking to you and he's like, yeah, I did that. There's a decent chance they're going to be able to prove this one. Let's settle it. 76 of them? Coercive control, UK has laws against. Well, everybody should. I did not know that Diddy can go back to being a producer. Oh, yeah, that he can't. He cannot go back to doing any of that while he's on paper, right? And what's that, 5 years? Got a 5-year tail, I think. So when he gets out, there's no chance that he can do, he really can't, if he can be a performer. Problem with that is you got to have a really cool probation officer. Most probation officers in the federal system want you to give them 2 weeks notice before you go anywhere, and they don't let you do that. All right, here's the deal. Here's my travel for the next 12 months. They're going to go, no. He's got meetings he's got to go to, right? That's part of his deal. He's going to have to be going to meetings every day. Normally they say we want 90 and 90. If there's drugs in your case, tons of drugs in Diddy's case. So they want 90 meetings in 90 days. You're not doing that on the road. He can't be a performer anyway. Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, can't be a producer, and the guy can't be a performer because he sucks. But he's going to be on the color system, okay? For the federal system, you call the phone every day, and it says the colors for today are blue, red, green, and black. And if that's one of your colors, because when you get in there, they're like, all right, Tommy, your color is white. When my color comes up, I got to be there between 9 a.m. and 5 to take a drug screen, a urinalysis. And you ain't using a Whizzinator. You're not cheating this thing. You're going to go in there, drop your pants to your ankles like a little kid does when he pees. And you're going to stand at a toilet. It's got a couple of mirrors. At least this has been my experience, and I've done it a couple of times. And you're going to pee into a cup. They're going to take a pipette. They're going to take a little bit of that pee out, and they're going to drop it into this little machine, and it's going to test to see how much solids is in your urine. And if your urine is all water, they just go, this isn't a sample. Now, your option is to go, well, I'll talk to my PO, and your PA will not have any sense of humor about this. So the other option is they say, well, you can sit down, wait 40 minutes, and give us another one. Because you have to have enough solids in your urine so that they know you're not just diluting it with water. They test for bleach. They test for all of the different products that they sell on the market to beat you. There is one way to beat a drug test in the feds. and it's to not do drugs. And they, if you buy a drug cup at Walmart, it'll test for weed, it'll test for amphetamines, it'll test for benzodiazepines like Valium, Xanax, those things. It might do PCP and marijuana. There's like a 5-panel test. Cocaine, right? 5 panels. In the feds, it's a 32-panel test. They test for things that aren't even drugs. So if you're smoking K2, they'll test for the metabolites that you have to have in your body if you've just smoked K2. They don't just test for heroin. They test for morphine. They test for 6 MAM, which is what heroin is in your body for the first 6 hours. After 6 hours, your body processes diacetylmorphine, which is heroin, into morphine, right? So anytime you hear someone, they go, well, he had morphine in his system. It probably wasn't morphine. But your body takes most opiates, turns it into morphine so that it can process it out. But he's going to be tested for 32 different drugs. They started that color system in Kansas about 10 years ago, but I lived there. They may do it in Missouri by now. I don't know. Yeah, it's in the feds, they do it everywhere. You've seen 12 panels at Walgreens. I have too, but I remember the first time I got in there and I looked up and went, what the deuce? There's 32 things on here. I'd always wondered what methamphetamine comes up because it is such a varied recipe. So they can test for amphetamines, but they also test for methamphetamine. And that, I think it's because they would just like to know exactly what you're abusing. So if you're taking Ritalin, Adderall, Dexedrine, Dizoxin, you're taking any of the over-the-counter speeds that are readily available on the market, those are going to test for amphetamines. Meth is kind of a garbage version of it. Dumb question. Is any state allowed to test anyone for every drug at once if they're only suspected of only one? Absolutely. You don't even have to be suspected. Like, you're going in because this is part of your probation. They're not saying, well, we think you're on this. They're saying your color's white, show up and pee in a cup, right? Then they can show up at your house, right? And say, we're going to test you. That's it. We're going to test you. I know your color didn't come up today, but I just want to see you pee in a cup. And they're going to go and have visits to his house twice a month, right? At a minimum, twice a month, where they just show up and knock on the door. They don't call and tell you they're coming by. They just show up and go, hey, we want to walk through and take a look at your house. They don't open drawers. They don't look under things. But you got a bong on your counter, you're in deep trouble. They will open your refrigerator. It's the only thing I ever saw them open because they want to see if you got booze in there. Diddy's case is covered with drugs. He's accused of drugging women. There is evidence, right? And it's going to get a lot worse, but there's evidence that he had people walking around with a bag and then it had 2, as in the number 2 and the letter C. They call it Tucci, right? It's actually 2C. It's a synthetic drug that they call pink cocaine. It isn't cocaine. It's a speed drug that has like a speed mixed with ketamine kind of an effect to it. But he would have that. He would have benzos and crap loads of painkillers. The one they get really dicey about is painkillers. All of the judges go, nobody quits those, right? That's going to be something you go back to again and again and again. So he's going to be getting tested. He's going to have to go to drug classes. All of these things are so invasive. It's almost impossible to keep a job while doing all of those things. I think it's total BS that they make people without drug charges take drug tests. In the feds, what they do is this. If you have 0 drugs on your case, if you got caught for a paper crime, so you worked at a bank and you were, taking money from a computer. So it's bank robbery, but you didn't walk in with a gun. You're just sending money off and they find out that you're scamming. If you didn't fail a drug test, if when they do your PSI, which is your pre-sentence investigation, they're going to talk to your friends. They're going to go back to high school to find out who you are. If no drugs show up, the judge won't put that on there. I knew people that were in trouble that was not part of their release. I was a heroin addict, right? I robbed banks to get dope. So it was the first thing on my release. Oh, you're getting it. Oh, it is a racket. Make no mistake, because the feds hire an agency to do the testing. So it's not the feds. And it's all a hustle. When you watch Diddy get convicted, you watch anybody get convicted anywhere in the United States, they say there's going to be a $99 drug and alcohol assessment. You just did a PSI on this jackwagon. Why do you need a drug and alcohol assessment? Because if you look around the country, and I promise you this is true, if you're a judge or you're somebody that's big in the system, you got somebody in your family that goes and gets certified to do those. And every single inmate, $100. As soon as they get out, $99, they got to go do that screening. And that screening is going to say, yeah, you absolutely have to do this. As a parolee, do you have to pay for that? You do not. The drug tests are all covered by the feds. In fact, so are the, if you have to go to classes or you have to do all that, they don't make you pay for any of that in the feds. But they might for Diddy. Because if you have unbelievable amounts of assets, then the government doesn't like paying for anything. I've never known anybody that didn't have to take a drug test for the release conditions. But of course, all of my friends are drug addicts. Well, you know what? Look, I would say that 99 out of 100 probably do. Because if you go to prison, everybody in there is in there for drugs. But Bernie Madoff wasn't, getting whacked. He did life. But there are people like that, people that do paper crimes, guys that get sent to Club Fed. Make no mistake, there are Club Fed prisons. But there's only a couple of them. And there are very few, there just aren't that many white-collar criminals that literally don't have anything kind of weird on that. In Oregon, the judges own the rehab facilities. It's bad. Look, they're slick as shit about it, but that's everywhere, man. I promise you it is. It's everywhere. I'll tell you the worst, and I'll put them right on blast because I don't give two shits. Par Boulevard is a jail in Nevada, in northern Nevada. And whoever the sheriff is at the time, his wife will run a program in the jail called Burger Barn, where if you got cash, you don't have to eat the shit food in there. Once a day, you can order from a short order cook. Get a pizza, get a cheeseburger, get whatever you want. And I spent time in there fighting my federal cases. And it is the judge's wife who owns that. How is that not? Anyway. Isn't Sean Klobes in the Club Fed? No, Diddy is not in Club Fed. I promise you he's not. He's not in a medium or a high security federal corrections institution, but Club Fed doesn't have a fence around it. Diddy is definitely not in Club Fed. And I'm not joking. So at a prison camp, which is not what he's at an FCI. Trust me, I knew guys that were at Fort Dix. But there is a camp there. But Victorville is the nastiest prison you ever seen. There's a camp there. Right? Coleman in Florida is ugly as hell. They got a camp. They call them satellites because if the bad guys get in the riot, they bring in the camp guys to cook so that they can bring us food because the cops ain't ever going to cook. They're not going to do any of those things. This is just this. So yeah, sexy. This is just absolute bullshit, Nikki. What this guy is trying to do is a money grab, and I guess I'm not mad at him. But I don't think it's going to go anywhere. She's got money, and he's going to say she hired me, right? She victimized me. And shut up. I'm sorry, man. The people flying there, right? These are people that sell their body for a living. I'm sorry, but that's what they do. That's a great question, man. This is a great question. Now, if it were anybody else on planet Earth, right? His yard points jumped up from the first write-up. The second write-up is going to bump him up a little bit. If he gets another good one, so that alcohol shot is a 100 series. It goes from 1 to 4. The lower the number, 100 is bad. Killing someone is a 100. The alcohol thing is like a 128. When I was in, it was a 112 or a 113, but they separated the drugs and the alcohol, and they moved the alcohol higher up. So it's like a 128. But that's severity. A 100 series shot, you lose the maximum amount of good time. They take away the most amount of stuff, and it jacks your points up. So if he got 1 or 2 more 100 series shots, he'd be gone. You were told his mother owns everything. Well, that's not what I found when I did the research on this. And I've heard a lot of people say that, but that's not the case. And he tries to get slick, right? It was called Love Air, was the name of the company that owned his airline. He changed it to Silver something or other because he's wanting to rent it out without people finding out. You can't do any of that anymore. Computers make it really easy to research anything if you put enough time in it. It's a higher point to have alcohol than to murder in prison? No. The lower the number. So murder is a 100, right? Attempted murder would be a 101. When you get up to past 112, which is possession of drugs, 128 is possession of alcohol, not as bad. 126 is manufacturing alcohol. So the lower the number, the more severe the crime. Yeah. But anything in the 100s is badass. Like, that's not good. And it doesn't take but about 2 of those, and they're shipping you. His custody level is going to bump from a low to at least a medium and maybe a high. And the only reason I say if it was anybody other than him, because the feds have to deal with the fact that there are 76 cases coming up. And some of them he may be able to do on a computer screen. Some of them he's going to have to show up for. And that means transporting this fool right back to the Southern District of New York. So if you move him to FCI Phoenix, right, there's only a certain number of FCIs that are close enough to where he is. It is such a corrupt system. It really is. It's a terribly, terribly corrupt system. And there's not much end in sight for it getting better. But please, and I'll say this every time I talk about this fool, I'm going to say this. Don't get suckered in to all of the bullshit for real, because we're paying people. Funny thing happened to me. I saw a video come up, and someone was saying this the other day. I saw a video come up, and I started to watch it because I hadn't seen it before, and it's a true crime thing. And it said after 24 years or something, they solved this case. I watched those. I'm a true crime nut. So I'm watching this thing, and I said to my brother, this doesn't smell right. None of this smells right. So I get on the computer and I start looking up the crime, right? One of the things they said that the person had been sent to Washington Women's Prison. I'm like, every prison I've ever been at has got, Northern Nevada Correctional Center, Southern Utah, this or that. Like it sounded odd. So I started, nothing in that was real. Nothing. They talk about the victims. They show pictures of the police officers that worked it. None of it is real. They go online now and say, create me a story. And these are AI generated. It had 45,000 views in 4 hours. They're getting paid, folks. They're getting paid. And it is absolute bullshit. So don't give money to people that are lying to you, or people that are just sensationalizing this. Because I'm telling you, sensationalizing it the first time with Diddy hurt everybody that wants justice for him. Because when it gets so insane that he's doing child sacrifice at midnight in the moonlight with all of these people here, or when they say Justin Bieber was performing oral sex on a guy that used to play for the Giants. I don't know if you ever saw the video I did on that. You get a picture of that from the side, like you look from the back and this is what you see, right here. He's right in his face. When you look from the side, the gap between them is this wide. It never happened. It never happened. Or when they say that 48 hours of Bieber being at Diddy's house, all of that was a film. He looked so uncomfortable. They're like, yeah, because he had just done stuff to him. No, because they said, here's your script. And he was a young kid, and he was trying to follow the script. So much of what we saw this much of, because it pays so much better, right? In the immortal words of Public Enemy, don't believe the hype. That's a good one. Archie's mom, it is, right? It's so messed up. If you watch something and it's AI and they're telling you a story, right in the beginning, stop what you're doing and go to the comment section. And you're going to see people who go, Seattle Hospital? There's no Seattle Hospital, right? There's nothing called that. And people just start calling out the bullshit. The funny thing about this one is they screwed up badly enough, just in case you come across this. It said that they were taken to court in 2029 because AI screwed up whatever they put in and they weren't smooth enough to check. The person got convicted in 2030. I'm looking at my brother going, I'm going to show up in 2030 and see if this person really gets convicted, because this sounds like bullshit. Believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. Archie's mom, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Be careful, because this pays people, right? This gives cash to people. And if every single day they're putting 3 videos up that says, it just got worse for Diddy, you're getting played, right? And it's terrible to pay people who are playing you. It really does. And it encourages this crap to continue, right? It honestly continues, because content creators are Pavlov's dog. I don't know too many people that were in the Diddyverse who aren't still doing exactly what they were doing. There's not a lot of us that went, whoa, that's jacked. I don't like the guy. I really hope that he loses every single penny he's got. I hope his kids have to get jobs, right? I'm holding out for that, because these guys lived like emperors and took advantage of so many people. BS sells, Archie's mom, because we want this guy to pay. So righteous indignation, being pissed off. If somebody comes and gives you a little food on that, oh man, he's about to pay. You go, I'd kind of like to hear that. The problem is that if it's not true, then we're actually helping the dude out, right? We really are. Because now when they go in there and they start going to cases or whatever, attorneys can go, Yeah, people are talking on the internet. They're saying that he's sacrificing babies in a tunnel underneath his house, right? If the claims get that outrageous, then the person that shows up and goes, he molested me when I was 10, they go, yeah, whatever. And he sacrifices babies at midnight. There was a Starbucks in the tunnel under his house. That kind of stupid shit takes away from the people who are really victims, right? There's something really wrong with that. I wonder if Diddy might consider not paying his lawyers anymore. He must know that they'll have to stay close until there's not much chance of not paying your lawyers. Then they walk out and he ain't done, right? You can't stiff your lawyer. There's just one person you can't stiff. He's got 76 more cases. He stops paying his lawyers now. They go, best of luck. And he gets a public defender, right? No, he's got to hire somebody else. They won't give you a public defender if you have the money to hire a lawyer. He has no choice but to hire a lawyer. Or they can just put a default judgment on him, and then he'll owe $40 billion, right? Because default judgments are terrifying. What were you filing for? I wanted $50 million. Default judgment. He didn't show up with his attorney. $40 million. Next person is going to ask for 50, right? That's one you just can't really get away with not doing. You can get away with laying off your bartender, right? He had a bartender in his house. You can get away with laying off your chef, make your kids cook for themselves, that kind of crap. Oh, you're not going to back off the attorneys. He's got 76 more cases. 76. And he's going to have to start selling stuff to pay for that. It's just not enough money left for Diddy. That $400 million is not in cash. You're going to have to get that money out of those investments. And you bought a $67 million jet that isn't worth 20 now, right? That's a bummer. And you've got these houses that are basically considered rape mansion and molest manor. Who the hell wants to buy those? You can sell them because the property is absolutely gorgeous. You can sell them, but it isn't like they're beating down the door to buy the molester mansion. They're just not. That's a difficult thing to do. So I will be continuing to cover this, but I promise you, if I put something up, I'm not doing it for the hype. I'm going to research it. I'll tell you right now, all the things you're hearing about his lawyers, that is 76 civil cases, McKenna. But let's remember, it's a great question. No, those are all civil cases as of right now. But the shooting at the studios out in LA, that's an open case, still under investigation. And 50 Cent had some stuff in the documentary that may make him look a little harder at that. And Cassie Ventura's was a civil case that once the whole world got to hear, turned into a criminal case. And I was saying earlier, let's say five of those turn into criminal cases. Let's say two of them do. That case, when Cassie's case broke, he was worth $800 million. Had properties all over the place. Now he's got two properties, one jet, and he's worth $400 million. He does not have one endorsement deal. All of the companies that he had stock in, he had to divest out of. They will not allow him to be anywhere near anything like Revolt or any of that. He's gone. He has nothing. He has $104,000 a month that comes in off of his catalog, and that is off of the royalties of his music catalog. And he's making about $410,000 a month from renting out his Gulfstream jet. That's the only thing he's got coming in. So he's in the hole about $500,000 a month. Every month he's losing about $500,000. It doesn't sound like a lot to a guy like him, right? $6 million. But again, don't think he has $400 million in the bank. That's not how net worth works. Cassie got paid allegedly $30 million. That's what most of the reporting, Daily Mail said that, New York Times said that. Most places report that she got $30 million. I have heard that she had gotten 20 in some places. It just depends on how it's reported. But I say let's split it down the middle. She got about 25 million. That's not bad, right? That's a lot of money. And it sets a precedent. Because what if two of the people in there get that? The really low end of the deal might be, this is another one of those absolutely great rumors that I used to perpetuate. I used to talk about all the time. I've heard it as high as 4,000 a day. They settled a long time ago. And Sting made a joke on a radio station where someone said, doesn't he still have to pay you? And he's like, yeah, like $2,000 every day for the rest of his life. It was a joke, but it has been run with. They settled for every breath you take. He doesn't owe Sting anything. But This is a rumor that still gets reported everywhere. I promise you, I chased this down. He's not paying him anything daily. But I'm not mad at you for thinking that. I thought it. They report the hell out of it. It just didn't happen. They went into court. There was a settlement, and he paid him. ABAC says, I would not be interested in buying the house because of that. I wouldn't either, right? You ever see those specials that they do at hotels where they go in with a black light, and anywhere that male sex fluid hit the walls or the ceiling or whatever, you look at it and it glows? I'd like to walk through the Diddy mansion with one of those black lights. Eee. Right? I mean, we've heard from people that had to work for him that they would go in the next morning and clean up every body fluid you could think of, right? Including blood. Like, yeah, I'm good, man. I don't want to be anywhere near those places. Not to mention just the fact that everybody that looks at you goes, you bought that? Why would you buy that? I mean, all the money in the world and you want Diddy's place? That's just kind of foul. What the hell's wrong with you? Thank you, Wendy R. What a kind thing to say. All right, people, that's about all I got for you today. Well, on this show. I'll be back tonight. And I got a really cool show I'm doing later on at Rumors You Can Relate To. It's the show that I do with my significant other, girlfriend. I'm sorry, my girlfriend. Stay tuned. All right, people. I am Tommy. Thank you for spending time with me. I'm gonna debunk BS as it happens with this. And if there's something worth talking about, we're gonna come on and talk about Diddy. It's fun to wish bad stuff on him every single day, but people are getting wicked paid because of it. He probably won't get what his house is worth anyway. Not if he wants a quick sale. You're damn right. It's a great comment. No matter what, he isn't going to get what he put into him out. Or no, he will get what he put into him because real estate values have gone up, especially one of the homes he hasn't owned for a long period of time. But the other one, he should get paid a lot. His profit on that's huge until you turn it into rate mansion. I don't think a lot of people want to own molester mansion. Cheryl Miles, good to see you. I'm glad that you caught a day show. I'm Tommy. Big Chill. Have a great day. Between now and the next time I see you, Desi Duwan, have a great day. I will see you on the next one, people. I'm Tommy. God bless.